Go read the book reviews on Bhagavad Gita books. A strange pattern shows up. Sincere, intelligent people finish this book and can't agree on what it even told them to do. One says it taught them to let go, surrender, stop grasping at life. Another reader, after reading the same book, says it lit a fire under them to get up and act. One calls it a manual for renouncing the world, the next calls it the best case ever made for diving into it and taking the bull by its horns. You will understand why they say that just a few chapters in. In chapter 2, verse 18, Krishna is pushing Arjuna to fight a war. Tasmad yudhyasva bharata, therefore fight, Arjuna. Krishna couldn't be more clear. He says, Arjuna, stand up, act, do the hard thing in front of you. Now in chapter 5 verse 2, Krishna says, both renunciation and the path of action lead to the highest good. But when you reach the last chapter, chapter 18 verse 66, Krishna says this, abandon all duties and simply surrender to me alone. Read those three verses back to back, you'll find Krishna saying three different things, all contradictory. One, fight. Dive into your life and do what you must do is the way forward. Number two, diving into life with gusto and giving up the rat race and becoming a sannyasi, a renunciate, both will take you to the highest good. And number three, now drop everything and surrender. He's not saying becoming a sannyasi. He's saying surrender to me. So which is it? Which is the right way? What should be a purpose in life? And Gita does the same thing with the idea of God as well. In places, the Gita describes one formless absolute behind all things. So, God is not a person in the sky somewhere, but formless consciousness, the idea of Nirguna Brahma. In other verses, Krishna refers to himself as the personal God everyone should surrender to. So, the impersonal and personal God both renounce and act in life. Gita raises and answers a few fundamental questions. First, who are you and what are you? When I say I am Sharad, what do I mean by that? Am I talking about my body, my mind, or something else? And second, how do you relate to God? Is God someone I can at best only get close to, or is God and I the same thing at a fundamental level? And number three, are there two different things out there? One is God and the other is God's creation. Or is there only one stuff, just God? In fact, questions 1, 2, and 3 I just mentioned are the same basic question asked differently. And number 4, how should you live your life? Should you quit the rat race and become a monk in search of moksha, nirvana, or enlightenment? Or should you actively get involved in life and do the best you can? The Gita is like a Q&A session where Arjuna the human asks Krishna the God a lot of questions and follow-up questions, even interrogating God. At many places, Arjuna is like, you just said something completely opposite to what you're saying now. What do you mean by that? Can you be less confusing, please? Gita is quite unique that way. It's okay to challenge authority. In fact, you are encouraged to do so. Now watch 4 of the greatest minds India has ever produced. Read this one text, answer these same questions and contradict each other flatly. First is Shankara, Adi Shankaracharya, an 8th century monk, a monk who has achieved so much in a short life of just 32 years. His answer is, there is only one thing that truly exists out there, pure consciousness. You, the world, the separateness, all are just appearances, just an illusion, he said. So that means you don't just get close to God, you are God right now. The only thing that's stopping you from realizing is your maya or your illusion. When Shankara said everything is God and argued it with airtight logic, the implications are dramatic. The floor is God, this camera is God, this watch I'm wearing is God. There is nothing that is not God. God is the only thing there is, he said. People hear that and either feel the top of their head come off or think it's mad. In philosophical terms, God is both transcendent and immanent. Another philosopher, a great bhakta, Ramanuja, a couple of centuries later read the same verses, came to a totally different conclusion. He said, no, you're not living an illusion. You are real. The world's real. God's real. You are a part of God, like a wave is part of the ocean. You are held by Him, but you never totally become Him. So the goal is not to dissolve in God, it's to love God. Then comes Madhva. He plants his flag at the far end from Shankara a few centuries after Ramanuja. He said, you and God are separate and always will be. He disagreed with both Shankara and Ramanuja. So, same book, three different conclusions on the fundamental questions. Then a fourth reader sidesteps all these metaphysical and philosophical questions and interprets Bhagavad Gita in a very practical way. Bal Gangadhar Tilak, a freedom fighter writing from a prison in 1915, says everyone's missed the point. The Gita is about what you do in life, not about answering abstract philosophical questions about who you are and how you are related to the God. Its real message, he said, is Nishkama Karma Yoga. Work, act, do your duty, but don't obsess about the outcomes and don't allow the outcomes to run your whole life. These four commentators were not doing a selective or a biased reading of Gita. These four were some of the sharpest minds and highest achievers that civilization has ever produced. Every one of them could point to real verses plainly on his side, because the verses really are all in there. You just saw them. Nobody smuggled anything in. So, why would one book hold all of that at once? Here's why. Aurobindo, the thinker I follow on the Gita, points out that Indian thought over thousands of years runs in two great kinds of work, and both are magnificent. Think of studying a mountain. You can spend a lifetime mapping one rock face in flawless detail, or you can pull back and chart the whole mountain at once. Different works, both real. That single split explains why Hinduism produced both kinds of masterpieces. The laser focused ones, the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, Shankara's Advaita Vedanta with its airtight logic, the Nyaya school that built an entire science of reasoning, and the gathering ones, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Gita, that pull everything into one frame and give you a zoomed out perspective. The first kind, Aurobindo calls intensive. Take a single thread of truth and follow it with absolute concentration all the way to the end, cutting away everything else to go bottomlessly deep on that one thing. Take Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. It opens by defining its subject in just one line: Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind. That's it. That's the whole target. And then it spends 195 odd razor sharp sutras drilling into that one thing. The kinds of mental fluctuations, the exact stages of stilling them, the obstacles, the levels of absorption, like an engineer's manual for a single machine. It doesn't wander, it doesn't gather, it picks one well and digs until it hits water. The second kind, Aurobindo calls synthetic. Instead of isolating one thread, you gather. You hold many truths together and find how they fit into a larger whole without forcing anyone to disappear. The Upanishads do this, and the Gita is its masterpiece. That's the source of your confusion. The Gita isn't a narrow book contradicting itself, it's a gathering book built to hold Shankara's knowledge and Ramanuja's devotion and action, the impersonal and the personal, in one frame. Because by its time, these had already hardened into rival camps that looked down on each other. Its whole move is to refuse to crown a winner. Aurobindo's 9 words explain it very well. It does not cleave asunder, but reconciles and unifies. So, of course, Shankara found oneness in it because oneness is in it. Of course, Tilak found action because action is in it. A book built to hold the opposites will hand each honest reader the peace he came needing. That's not the book failing. That's the hardest thing a book or a teaching can do. There's a catch though, and it's where these four giants went wrong, says Aurobindo. The Gita was built to gather. They used it to fight. Each turned it into ammunition for his own school against the other. They took a thing built to open the whole landscape and used it to wall off their own corner of it. Aurobindo's line for this is the sharpest in the chapter. The commentators, he says, try to make the Gita a weapon to attack rival schools. But the Gita is not a weapon, it is a gate opening onto the whole world of spiritual truth and experience. One that does not cut up or build walls or hedges to confine our vision. They kept grabbing a gate and swinging it like a club. Which lands you on the question you've probably been wanting to ask this whole time. If the Gita won't hand you a single path, why read it at all? Because the Gita fixes the seeing. It supplies a perspective, not a technique. It won't tell you what to chant at 5 a.m. or how to sit. It's something you need before any of that. It is a perspective, like I said. Look at what it actually is. It's about Arjuna, a man who collapses on the battlefield, unable to act. And what Krishna gives him isn't a technique. He isn't teaching Arjuna how to use the bow. It's a way of seeing his situation clearly enough to stand up again. The Gita is the map and the compass. It is not the trail. You still have to walk, but at least now you can see where you're going. So the next time the Gita seems to say everything and its opposite, and you feel that flush of weight, which is it? Hold this instead. It's not confused and you're not misreading it.